The invitation smelled like jasmine and hypocrisy. I let it sit on my kitchen counter for 3 days, the heavy cardstock warping slightly from the steam of my morning coffee. Dr. Liora Vey, it read in raised silver lettering, not Leo, not our daughter. Certainly not the name screamed across our childhood home when I tracked mud on the Persian rugs. Just my title and surname, clinical as a coroner's report. 8 years. That's how long it had been since I'd heard my mother's voice outside of a voicemail accidentally forwarded by the hospital admin. No calls when I survived the Marikit outbreak. No letters when the New England Journal published my research. Just the brittle silence of a family waiting for me to apologize for existing too loudly in their carefully curated world. The cab ride to the Vey estate took me past all the landmarks of my exile. The prep school that expelled me for organizing a protest. The country club where my father pretended not to know me when I served his table during my med school years. The train station where Cade watched me leave with a smirk and a whispered "Don't come back this time." The gates were new, wrought iron, 12 feet high, with our family crest welded into the center. The security guard didn't recognize me. "Name?" he asked, fingers hovering over his tablet. I rolled down the window. "You're standing on my trust fund." The house loomed like a wedding cake left out in the rain, all crumbling sugarwork and stale grandeur. They'd repainted the shutters since my banishment, but the same crack split the east balcony where I'd jumped as a teenager, fleeing Cade's prank of locking me in the wine cellar overnight. The door opened before I could knock. My mother stood framed in the foyer, her Chanel suit the exact shade of the hydrangeas she'd always forbidden me to touch. For a heartbeat, we were both 16 again, her gripping my wrist as I tried to run to the protest march, me screaming that she couldn't keep me silent forever. "Liora." She said my name like a pathologist identifying a corpse. "You're late. Not welcome home. Not you look well." Just another demerit on my permanent record. The scent hit me as I stepped inside, lemon oil and tuberose, the signature perfume of Vey family disapproval. Nothing had changed. Not the grandfather clock that never kept time, not the portrait gallery where my image had been discreetly removed after the scandal, not the way my spine automatically straightened into the posture my ballet instructor had beaten into me. The dining room was a study in battlefield geometry. 24 chairs for 23 guests. My place had been set at the far end, between the drafty window and Uncle Gregor, who still referred to me as the difficult one. The china was our everyday Wedgwood, not the heirloom Limoges reserved for real family. Ah. My father didn't rise from the head of the table. The wanderer returns. Cade smirked from his throne at our father's right hand. "We thought you'd be too busy saving the third world to join us." I counted the weapons in reach. Butter knife, dull. Water goblet, crystal, shatterable. The steak knife my mother was already discreetly sliding out of my sight line. The soup course arrived cold. Conversation lapped around me like I was a boulder in a stream. Cousins discussing ski trips I wasn't invited on. My aunt lamenting how unfortunate it was that I'd chosen to work with those kinds of diseases. Then Cade tapped his champagne flute. "To family," he announced, eyes locking onto mine. "Even the ones who forget their place." Laughter rippled through the room, the kind that sticks to your skin like tar. I watched my father's mouth twitch upward. Saw my mother's perfectly manicured fingers tighten around her napkin. They expected me to cry, to run, To be the hysterical girl they'd spent years convincing everyone I was. Instead, I reached into my jacket. The badge hit the table with a sound like a gavel strike. Dr. Liora Vey, it read in blunt black letters. Chief of Infectious Diseases. National Crisis Response Team. Presidential Medal of Honor Recipient. Silence fell so completely I could hear the ice melting in Cade's drink. My father was the first to break. We weren't aware you'd risen so high. You never asked. I turned the badge slightly, letting the light catch the embossed seal. Though you certainly asked the residency board to reconsider my placement after that anonymous complaint about my instability. Funny how the letterhead matched your private stationery. My mother's wineglass trembled. Across the table, my niece, a teenager I'd never met, mouthed holy shit to her phone. The toast resumed without me. I counted the exits 3, the allies 0, the years I'd wasted craving their approval 27. When the souffle collapsed under its own weight, I stood. Leaving so soon? Cade drawled. The media will be here in an hour. Father's receiving his philanthropy award. I adjusted my cuffs. I have a containment breach in Lagos. You always did prefer strangers to family, my mother said softly, viciously. I paused at the threshold. No. I just finally found people who don't mistake my compassion for weakness. The Uber came faster than expected. As we passed through those ridiculous gates, my phone buzzed a notification from the Times. Breaking, Vey Pharmaceuticals under investigation for price gouging HIV medication. Attached was a document I'd anonymously sent the FTC 6 months prior. I rolled down the window. The autumn air smelled like burning leaves and justice.